This time, we'll move into the public comment section of the meeting, and we'll hear from those who have signed in before the meeting was called to order. Just as a reminder to everyone that we may hear your comments, but the board is prohibited from actually discussing any of the issues upon which the public has not been given 72 hours notice, and items that are on the agenda there. Also, we ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. Is there anyone from the floor that would like to address the board at this time? If not, we will move on to the staff reports, Main Street program, and I apologize, I think I just took that out of order there. So the Main Street program staff report, I know Brenda is not here this evening, but we need to go back up to number 4, staff reports. I'm backtracking. I got overzealous there. Excited about a good crowd and thought, surely somebody was here to talk. Brenda's report is posted online for anyone who would like to read that at their leisure. If it actually takes board approval, it's just basically informational for us. So, okay, moving on to item 6, the consent item in the minutes. Those were posted in the portal as well. Our meeting from August 23rd and also August 30th. Those. We'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
We have a motion on the floor.
I'll second.
And a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? If not, that motion carries. Moving on to items 7, the presentation, discussion, and action items. The first on the agenda is for item 7.1, consider funding request from Winnsboro Center for the Arts for their October Roundup event. Is there someone from WCA who would like to present your request on behalf of the Arts Center? If you would please state your name and address. Is your microphone on? I don't know if you do. Perfect, thank you.
Winnsboro as an annual site for cowboy poetry and music gatherings. We strategically placed this event in October to complement Winnsboro's Autumn Bird Festival, bringing it to Winnsboro as a consumer. Storytelling is an important tool in preserving cultural traditions, and our October Roundup provides a platform for telling our stories through poetry, music, and art. Our art exhibit, Cowboy Tales, provides the backdrop to the music and poetry performances during the month. The art exhibit actually went up today, and I'm so impressed. It's great. It is a October Roundup is to host an interactive series of events which provides a forum for aspiring young cowboys and cowgirls, regional poets, and musicians to perform, and to be able to interact with professionals in their field. Our strategy is to build awareness of Winnsboro with the people in the cowboy poetry community by bringing the best of the best in this business. This is planned as an annual event, which we think will grow. The first concert will take place on October 8th on the Bowery Stage, and will feature award-winning musicians Kristen Harris and Haley Stankhouse. Kristen's impressive resume includes International Western Music Association Entertainer of the Year for multiple years, Female Performer of the Year for multiple years, and other prestigious awards. Haley's awards include International Western Music Association Instrumental of the Year for multiple years, and Cowtown Society of Western Music Rising Star of the Year. The finale will be our one-day Cowboy Poetry Gathering on October 29th. The gathering will include youth activities and feature performances by local and regional poets and musicians during the day, and this is free to the public. The evening concert features highly acclaimed award-winning entertainers Andy Bridges, Andy Wilkinson, Dave Staney, and the great cowboy storyteller Waddy Mitchell, one of the founders of the National Cowboy Poetry Gathering in Elko, Nevada.
Somebody's excited.
Of course, the accolades of these four entertainers are too numerous to mention, and all of them have been regulars at the Elko. This event helps preserve our own local ranching and dairy farming heritage and brings attention to Winnsboro as a destination for future cowboy gatherings. People that follow cowboy poetry and music are a loyal following. We want Winnsboro to be known as one of the better places to go. All 6 of these entertainers are regulars at the annual National Cowboy Poetry Gathering in Elko, and having these well-established professionals in concert will provide excellent entertainment for our community and attract more tourists to the area to shop, play, dine, stay overnight. Cowboy poetry gatherings, especially with performers of this caliber, are expensive to produce, but having the cowboy gathering events during autumn trails will give folks one more reason to come to Winnsboro in October and see all that we have to offer. Since these entertainers are well known among cowboy poetry followers, they should bring our event to the attention of fans all over the state to come to Winnsboro to hear them. But we do have more work to do to get the word out. We still need sponsors to help cover the hard costs. We are asking the Winnsboro EDC for $2,000 to fund specifically the marketing and advertising for this event. Thank you for the time consideration.
Great. Do you know about how many visitors y'all are anticipating bringing to town for this event?
I don't at this time. Jim, would you know how many we had?
We didn't come up with a target number.
We actually, and I wasn't here at that time, we actually had a cowboy gathering back in 2019, and it was very well attended. I actually know one of the poets myself is a friend of mine, and she's a regular at Red Steagles, and anyway, she loved it and wants to come back. But I don't know how many people were specifically here at that time. Then, of course, COVID, and we're hoping to get back.
So our $2,000 specifically will be used for advertising and marketing to draw additional tourists and locals as well to the event in order to stimulate the economy of Winnsboro with those dollars being spent here.
Yes, exactly. We've got the brochure that should be printed on this week. We're getting posters today. We're getting them out to the community, to the area, towns. We're on the radio stations, trying to get the media here. Of course, newspapers, Texas Football, arts, groups that we reach out to. Trying to get the word out all the groups that we know and appreciate this.
Anybody have any questions?
So you were marketing director for which magazine?
They're all working with you, because it was,
Yeah, no, you're speaking on it. I know Red and all you guys, a long time, we go to the Cowboy Heritage Festival every year. There are a few things that, I think this is a great idea, honestly, because we need more for the culture and the community, and I'm part of that. But there are some strategic things that I want to share, and I want to ask you offset or counterbalance these, but one, you're 2 weeks before Reds to Gall's deal.
We're actually the same day, same weekend.
It's the same weekend.
It's the same weekend. It will not be next.
So I know a large group of people from this community that follow this that are all gonna be Reds.
The Reds
And
is a
that's-
multi-day event.
That's right.
Ours is one.
Well, and I'm just, the only reason I'm saying is, what I'm seeing is literally the same thing. Now, different scale, different type and all that, but you're pulling in the poets, you're pulling in the cowboy music, you're pulling, same.
Right.
So what have you guys done to try to plan to offset some of that? Because, again, I know that there's a large group of people from this community specifically that are going. Now, the other thing that you said, and if you want to answer that, but the other thing you said was there is like a cult following to this, and that is absolutely true. I'm one of the followers. I'm just have been since knee-high or grasshopper, but that also limits your target audience and base, because when you're dealing with, and just having been part of Red's deal and knowing a lot of the guys, stock contractors, and just dealing with all that stuff, the chuck wagon cook-off and that whole situation, you have people that follow it, and then you have people that say, oh, that's neat, and they might show up for a few hours, or they'll read about it or watch it on YouTube. And so my thing is, where exactly are these marketing dollars going? Because where are you planning to pull these people from? Because the larger community here, that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because it is a cult following, most of us are kind of down there at that deal, eating the breakfast, kind of going to the dances, and doing the whole thing. And if it's the same weekend, I'm kind of upset that I don't get to be at this one. So how are you combating that? How are you focusing on that cult following, and understanding that life? And I think that you would have with the Western Horsemen and dealing in that space, you of all people would have that knowledge. What are that? And I got one more after.
Okay. Typically, I mean, even with, the entertainment that we're bringing, they'll be at Reds, they're coming here. This, I think, will bring in more people that aren't going to go to Fort Worth and Weatherford and do that whole thing. We're gonna bring people from this area. This region really is a little underrepresented, I think. So this will give, of course, smaller than Reds for now, and give the people out.
I like that, for now.
For now. That would not be going to the big one in Fort Worth, a place to come and enjoy it. That's the way I see it. We're reaching more of this part of Texas.
So being an annual event, are y'all gonna keep having it on that same weekend?
No.
Okay.
We're gonna take it off the Reds. I think when they planned it, one of the times that they didn't realize it was. Reds is the.
No, that's good. What you said is
Yeah.
we're speaking the same way, because
Yeah.
you're really limiting your,
Yes.
okay?
No, it will not be the same weekend. We've already discussed that. I don't think they realized it. There's 5 weeks in October this year. There's normally 4 weeks, so Reds is always like the 4th week because it was the last
Yeah,
week.
that's right.
Well, it's always the last week where there's 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah, 'cause I mean, it's, the hotels there are sold out for the next 6 years for that event. It's nuts.
How far is Reds
An hour and a half,
from here?
exactly.
From here
From
to
here.
Fort Worth?
From here to the stockyards, to go see
you
Red,
talk faster than
to
me.
go see, hey, to go see
Right.
Red, it's an hour and a half. Now, if I'm going to something else, it might be a little longer. If I go see Red, it's an hour and a half.
He's got that down.
Yeah. So my other question is, due to for what the community is, this is exciting to me personally. And this is why I'm so intrigued in this. If this is gonna be an annual event, I know I will absolutely do my part to help. I know I'll be there, and all my kids, that'll give you 50 just in my kids. But in that, one of the things that we've seen, and I know that everyone here can kind of attest to this, one of the things that we've seen is kind of a divide in the Arts Center and some of the group that live on the other side over here that are ranching every day and that kind of thing. They don't really, there's not a lot of, oh, what's going on over here? I think this will absolutely draw to that. But how are we what are your plans on using these dollars, especially this year, to couple some of this with either the mule rodeo, with the trail ride, with how are we gonna couple this and say, hey, we've got something here this year, even though a lot of y'all are going to Fort Worth, what can we do to get y'all here?
Right, I know there are collaborations with on trails and, and getting the word out and sharing, sharing that back and forth. And Jim, if you want to jump in, if you have anything to add, please do, because you're more knowledgeable about it at this point.
Because this is an exciting thing. I just
Yes.
want to know how these marketing dollars are going to really focus on the community. Because again, the cult following that you said, the reality is that's very true. If you know about it, you follow it, and that's.
You'll need to state your name and address.
Just a couple of things. You're right,
Name and address real quick.
Jim Willis, Extension Officer.
I know who you are, but we have to get it in the minutes.
Yeah, the money that we would be getting here, it will be used primarily for a FIFO that we send into the trails this week. And we're going to do a direct mailing to a lot of the cowboy churches, and that's where we're going to get to the individual that is going to come. We're better off, obviously, if we all the same thing as what we are this year. We actually, though, I don't know if you know why you went to Dave Saving.
Oh, yeah.
We have them. Red doesn't have them this year.
Yeah.
So I think our lineup and the marketing plan that we have right now, we could bring them to people that we need to bring in to make this more success.
So what I heard is the dollar amount here is really for the trifolds and all to get it out. So we're marketing more of it's an annual event, and it's this weekend, but really pushing that it's an annual event, getting to the cowboy churches, getting into the culture, so that future events, so it's not just a singular thing.
Right.
Okay.
The mailings at the cowboy church is very expensive mailings, so we have packages going out to all things, and hopefully help the individuals in the church.
From an entertainer stance, interesting story that have some past in that. What do the entertainers bring to the table? Because a lot of times when a community or a group or an organization hires an entertainer, part of that relationship is I expect you to bring a draw. Show me what you're doing for marketing. How are you bringing a draw? What are you doing in this? Because if we can align that with their broker, their booking agent, if we can align that with this, we may be able to maximize those dollars.
We are on the website for these entertainers right now, and it's interesting, Andy Hedges put it on his website, and within 24 hours, we sold 24 packages.
Sister Karen, saw her Facebook post today that showed her where she's going to be upcoming and you on there.
That's something we expect from all the entertainers.
Because a lot of them, like Waddy and those guys, they'll actually graph show, hey, listen, when we showed up, we can actually track who we brought. And because it's all about draw. And so if you can actually maximize that draw, I didn't know that. Okay. Cool.
Anybody else have any questions? Do we want to entertain a motion on the floor? The request is for $2,000 from the WEDC for marketing and advertising dollars for the Winnsboro Center for the Arts Operation Roundup, cowboy poetry, music, and art.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Jim.
I'll second.
Okay, there's a second by Marcia. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay.
We appreciate you very much. I'm excited about this.
Thank you for all that y'all do and for thinking outside the box to try to bring a different type of cultural art to Winnsboro and a different crowd, because the more people we get coming to see Winnsboro, the more people I think are going to fall in love with our town and want to call Winnsboro home. And so thank y'all for doing that. I know y'all put in a lot of work providing quality programming there. It's evident by the caliber of entertainers, art, and other displays that y'all have there at the center. So thank y'all. I know it's a lot of hard work by a lot of individuals there. And we appreciate what y'all bring to the economic vitality of Winnsboro.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Jan, could I have you guys amend the motion to state whether or not this is going to be a reimbursement where they bring receipts and we reimburse after they pay for the advertisement, or if we're going to pay for it up front? We need that to be a part of the motion.
Okay. Can we have an amendment to the motion? We do have funds in this budget year for this, which need to be spent by Friday.
Motion. I make a motion that we pay up front.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we have an amendment to the motion that we will, and then would like just some type of a receipt
Yeah, and
afterward showing where the funds were spent.
Okay, with that.
and I don't know if I can second that with stipulations, but if.
There's only one motion on the floor, so
Yeah.
you need a second. If it doesn't second, it'll die due to a lack of second, then
Yep.
you can make a second amendment. It can only
Is
be
there a
one
second?
motion.
I'll second.
Okay, now is there any discussion?
If you can you at least just show us where you kind of at least put it out for bid and we saw that the dollars were at least being priced out?
Okay. When do you need that?
Well, just whenever, just bring it after you purchase them and all that, but just showcase, hey, we went out and we actually got 3 quotes and we did the full process. We didn't just go to our cousin because they make cool t-shirts. Yeah.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, we have a motion and second on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? If not. The amendment to the original motion passes. Okay.
Close enough.
Okay, item 7.2, consider approval of an interlocal agreement of ETCOG for consulting services for a director search for WEDC. Would you like to present that to us, or do you want me to go over that, or?
I don't have my iPad in front of me, so if you want to go over the details of what's
Okay.
in the contract in front of you, that'd be fine.
I will.
Thank
For
you.
several months, we have posted on several websites the application for the executive director for the WEDC, and have not received any applicants that we feel meet the criteria that we are looking for to fill this position based on experience and other things there. The East Texas Council of Government was employed by the city to find an applicant and eventual staff for the city for our city administrator position, and did a great job in their search, getting many qualified applicants in, and then selecting eventually a very qualified person to bring aboard the city as our city administrator. And so Mackenzie and I were talking, trying to figure out how could we get applicants for the WEDC, because it's a very vital role in the city to bring aboard someone who can go out and look for new businesses to come to town, which would then increase our tax base, would increase our payroll and employment roles within the city. And that's the type of applicant that we're wanting to bring aboard for this position. So you have in your packets a contract for our consideration, an interlocal governmental agreement for professional services between ETCOG and the WEDC. Basically, what it is stating that they, beginning on October 4th, if this is approved, will begin searching for our executive director for a time not to exceed 5 months. In compensation for that, they will charge $98 an hour with a minimum charge of $5,000, with total charge not to exceed $10,000 for those services unless mutual consent of both WDC and ETCOG. And if they have any additional services that they may need to provide for us, they would get our approval before entertaining those services at an hourly rate of $95 an hour, and additionally, we would have cost to travel to and from and within the WDC area for their recruiting. And those are the basic provisions, other details that are there. Their scope of services is also there.
Out of curiosity, aside from this contract, what avenues have we pursued to try to bring somebody in?
We have posted the application on a couple of different sites. Mackenzie knows specifically where we have addressed
So
that.
there is a state of Texas EDC committee that is similar. It kind of mirrors the Texas Municipal League. It's called TEDC. We've advertised on there. We've advertised on Texas Municipal League, Facebook. I've also personally reached out to several other cities and attempted to poach really qualified applicants. Have been unsuccessful in doing that as well. A whole lot of word of mouth. Have a lot of contacts in this vein, and have just been unsuccessful.
How is this any different than any other staffing agency
They get 5,000?
at $98 an hour?
Yep.
I mean, I do this, I look at these every day, and I've never seen one high.
I think that the primary difference is that ECOG, thank you, specializes in local governments, where a staffing agency is going to be everything other than specializing in local government, where ECOG is going to have the resources to reach out to things specific to local government.
So, looking in the scope of services, we talk specifically about applicant tracking systems which post on major job boards, Indeed, ZipRecruiter, Simply Hired, highlight position, and it talks about the regional newsletter, the TML website, Facebook, LinkedIn, create an email position circular to the contact list.
I think are we able to put this on hold for another month and try some of these avenues ourselves, like Indeed, ZipRecruiter, Monster, and do our own advertising that way?
I mean, we can. I mean, I advertise specifically on economic development portals that are where people who are EDC directors are looking for employment. Strategic, what is it, SGR?
So,
SGR is another one that we've used.
if it helps at all.
Yeah.
And-
just for what it's worth, one of our clients, and I'll share this with you later, but for my company, our clients is the largest manpower provider in the world. They operate in 149 locations in 36 countries, and they do everything across every discipline. At least I can give you that context. I know they don't charge this.
I will tell you that we've received applications. Receiving applications isn't the issue. Receiving applicants who are knowledgeable in this very specific qualified field is the problem. I can show you a dozen applicants, people who have applied, but they do not have specific economic development experience or training. And so that's the challenge, is that it's so specific to the position. I'm perfectly fine delaying it if you guys want to do that. I just want to reiterate that I'm just a temporary solution for this position. It's very taxing to do both for me.
Right.
I'm doing the best that I can do, and will continue to do that throughout my commitment to you guys. The sooner the better for me personally, but I'm willing to try it for a month.
I only ask just because we got some new faces up here, and maybe some of the resources that we have, we might be able to assist in providing more qualified people than just someone that's sending an application hoping to get a job.
Well, and for me, and I absolutely hear what you're saying. I really do, and I agree that we need somebody. You you and I are on the same page with that. But looking at the contract, looking at the verbiage, one of the things specifically is we're talking about these people are different, which is why they should be able to charge more. But when you actually look at the attachment A, the scope of services, the only Texas Municipal League website that they can post it on, can we pay ourselves and post it on there? And then, of course, Facebook and LinkedIn.
We did those things.
We did?
Mhm.
So
And I didn't mean to imply that they're worth more money because they're specific, that's a reason I was given why we would go with them. They do some things, and maybe other staffing companies do this, I'm not familiar, I don't have a lot of experience with staffing companies, but one thing EdCog will do is really on the interview and vetting side, where they go through, and I know this from my personal experience, they vet the people, they do all of the background checks, they do this interviewing where it's through a video portal, and they will submit all of the applicants with individual files where, and Jim can speak to this too, he's nodding his head, where all of those are available for a group decision. If you guys said, hey, we want to see who the applicants are, then I could send all of those video recordings to you guys in your email, and you could review, then we could come in here, have executive session discussion, which would allow you guys to weigh in too on who that person is. Versus it just being myself and maybe another member of staff from HR or something of that nature. So there is a little bit more than them just finding the applicant. They're also doing the vetting, setting up the interview schedule, downloading the recordings, getting them to us, making recommendations, and that sort of thing also.
would y'all be opposed if I threw out just a couple of very large staffing agencies out there, just names? Could we at least get them to send contracts and say, hey, can y'all do with these companies, with what we see here, could y'all do this, and if so, at what rate? Can you make us feel comfortable that you could do it as well as this company? Because it seems very, very high. But I could give you 3 major names if y'all are interested in that.
Well, the interest is because they specialize in this type of work, right? Not just your normal ABC staffing. My concern is with that amount of money, if we can maybe get another month, right? And see if we can't touch on some of our resources, Cody on some of his resources. If we're successful, great. If we're not, then we pursue this route. But I think based on that amount of money, we could help another business in this town.
My experience with using a typical staffing company is they're going to want a percentage of the salary that you pay the person that you hire, and we don't.
No, I'm not saying use another staffing
Yeah, we
company.
don't pay this here. It is an hourly rate that you saw there at $98 an hour with a minimum 5,000 charge. So I guess if they, spend 10 hours and come up with the perfect person, that was $980 worth of work that they've charged us $5,000 for.
Well, if you look at it from the other perspective, if you just talk about traditional staffing agency ways, you have a multiplier. So they would come on as an employee to us through the staffing agency. The staffing agency does a multiplier of just say 1.5, 1.4 to 1.5 as an office admin. Our burden would be a 1.2, 1.25 multiplier. Well, that covers all the workers' comp, it covers your insurance, it covers everything. And then at the end of usually 760 hours is kind of the average verbiage. Some are 860, but somewhere in that range, then you don't buy out anything. When you look at the actual profit center on the back end from a 1.25 direct burden for us, which for the government, for this would probably be a 1.3. If they're doing it at a 1.4 to even a 1.5, the difference is a couple of dollars an hour. When you look at the life cycle of that 800 hours on average, it's going to be cheaper to do that. If we have somebody that's competent in finding this, than if we paid them $5,000 and the $98 an hour to do it. See what I'm saying? So, and at that point, there's no buyout. So if they run the whole life, then it's clean and washed and done, or you take hours accrued. So let's say you go in and you're 400 hours into it, you're like, hey, this is the person, this is who we want. Well, then it's a reduced rate on a buyout fee. So the buyout fee, let's just say, is $2,500. Well, now you're 50% through the contract, so they cut the buyout by 50%. So when you look at dollar for dollar, if we can find somebody who's competent enough to actually do it, and we have no money out up front, the burden is 100% on them, and they usually replace it with 1 or 2 candidates at no cost. So now we're $0 in, other than the hours worked, up to the buyout period that we choose, or the clock has run out and they become our employees for free, and we don't have to pay them anything. So if there were other companies out there in the traditional sense that had the same understanding and the same competency in finding a person, just dealing with these contracts regularly would be a whole lot cheaper on the tail end, if that were a thing. Because we could take this Appendix A and say, hey, can you guys, 3 or 4 different companies, can you do this well? No, we don't have any experience in that. Okay, thank you, move on. But if there are 2 or 3 that can do it well in the traditional sense, I just feel like it'd be a whole lot cheaper.
There's also an additional time commitment on myself and my staff to pursue other avenues that would need to be quantified in those calculations as well. But, you know, I'm just concerned about the additional time that it's going to take.
Well, I guess what I'm suggesting is take this, send it, quick conversation, send it to 2 or 3 of the majors. Hey, can you do this? No. Okay, and then we just take this and run with it. But if they say, oh yeah, absolutely, we spent 15, 20 minutes max, just say an hour, and hey Brunel, hey NES, hey Air Swift, hey Global Manpower Resource, can you guys do this? No. Okay, thank you, and then we have something. If they say, oh yeah, absolutely, do it every day. Cool, what would you charge us? This. Oh, well, it's the same, so we'll just go with these guys. Or, wow, that's half the price. Yes, please, thank you. That's, I mean, Steve's got plenty of time, he can do it.
Are you, I guess my question is to you, how exhausted are you? Can you last another month? Or can you
It's
give
not a
us
matter.
little bit?
It's not a matter of my endurance or exhaustion whatsoever. I'm here late every single night. I do what it takes to get the job done. But there's other staff members that I have to consider in that also. And for me too, Stephen, it's about the quality of work that I produce, the quality of work that I produce and the service that I provide to EDC or to my staff or to my council or to the citizens. Very important to me. So at some point,
Well, I don't want you to get burned out either.
I would not worry about that. I've been doing this my whole life. So I think that if we were in a burnout situation, I would have already been there long ago. Really, my major concern is just I don't want to sacrifice quality in what I bring to the table. And so as far as being tired, it's not about being tired. I just don't want to sacrifice the quality that I bring to the table. I am willing to do another month if that's what the board wants, to at least just try.
Okay.
It looks to me like EdCog actually is going in and using some specific resources that I don't know if just another staffing company can do with.
Where are you seeing? Because I'm on.
You're under
Highlight position in EdCog's monthly regional newsletter. I know that's going out to people that are in government type
But if
jobs
it's a monthly
there.
regional newsletter, they probably have sponsors and advertisers in that.
I don't know, I have not ever seen one of those.
I mean, for me, either way is fine. I just looking at it and reading the verbiage, it's just much higher than what I'm used to seeing with very large, very capable firms that have hundreds of thousands of placements every day. And that was my only concern.
You know, it's not 5,000 plus $98 an hour for the work they do. The $98 an hour.
With a minimum
is-
of 5,000,
right.
up to 10.
Right.
Jim, can you speak to your experience from the city council position? I know y'all have worked closely with EdCog before and how the process worked and the value you feel they bring to the table.
It went pretty smooth when I was involved in it. I really liked the way it was done in that, well, McKinsey pointed out the videos, the interviews on the video when they were sent to everybody, you could look at it at your convenience, and then it narrowed down the candidates.
had mentioned, Cody, that some of the recruiters that you're talking about do this for free, that there's no commitment?
There's no guaranteed fee. So there's always a cost. Nobody,
No,
they're not
that's
gonna do it.
what I was thinking.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're
we're gonna
not-
pay somebody.
No, they're not gonna do it for free.
Okay.
But there's no, so what they do, generally speaking, is you say, hey, I need a person for this role. So they don't charge you anything to go find a person. If there's not a fit and you don't hire anybody, there is no cost. So there's no upfront cost.
Right.
If you do choose a person, they do a standard multiplier. So in business, you and I and all of us are employees. If we pay them $20 an hour, they cost us $25 an hour. And they don't, most of them don't even realize that, but it's that multiplier that on average, 1.2, 1.25. Well, they say, hey, we'll come in and charge you based on the class code for the workers' comp insurance for their burden. Whatever that burden is, they say, hey, for that and plus our markup, we'll do, because it's an office person, we'll do a 1.4 or 1.45 markup, where the type of role this is with the benefits and all, I would probably say our burden will be closer to 1.3. So we're looking at a 0.15 difference. And when you look at that over the life of the 700 and some odd hours that they would generally ask, or if we did a buyout and an early buyout, we're still less than between at least five, not to exceed $10,000. And if we go with some of the bigger firms that are doing the same exact thing, all the stuff in Appendix A, minus maybe the newsletter, is all stuff that they have access to anyway because they do government contracts and government work anyway. So all I was saying is not, I don't know these guys, I never heard of them, so not saying they're good, bad, indifferent. I'm just solely looking at cost, and if we can save ourselves 50%, 50% of a dollar is still 50%. So that was the only thing I was saying is, have we looked to anyone else? Because that's all that was presented. That was my only suggestion is, if we just say, hey, can you do this? Yes or no? Yes. Cool, send us what he would charge us. And then we've got 2 or 3 to compare and then make a decision.
At a 30% markup based on kind of what the average salary for this position should pay, that's $19,500 versus $5,000 to $10,000 to hire somebody.
Where's the 30% market rate?
You take $65,000, which I think is what we have posted openly as the salary position here. That times 30% is
So where's that cost of
$19,500.
30%?
That's what you just told me, that they give you a markup of a multiplier of 1.5 to 1.4 to a minimum of 1.3.
No,
So-
what I'm saying is, generally speaking, the cost burden for us as you and I specifically as employers, the average burden is roughly a 1.2 to
Okay.
1.25, depending on what class code they fall in. If we use another agency, they look at the class code for workers' comp insurance specifically, so this would be 8810 would be the class code they would fall under, so the workers' comp overhead burden would be very narrow. So they would say, hey, and I'm making up numbers, but they would place this, and I see it regularly, between 1.35, 1.4, some of the high end at 1.45. Well, if our burden rate inside of this position, because if we hired them directly, didn't use any of this, somebody came in off the street and said, hey, I want a job, it would probably close to, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but probably close to a 1.3 burden.
Right.
Is what it would cost us if we didn't hire anybody, somebody came in off the street and we hired them. Whatever their pay rate is, that 30%, we're gonna pay that every year no matter what. That's our burden. Well, if they say, hey, we think we can find you someone, we won't charge you anything until we find a candidate, and when we find the candidate, we're gonna charge you a 1.35 or a 1.4, well, there's only a difference of a 1% or half in that markup, the multiplier. So either, if it's already costing us 1.3, and they can provide us somebody at 1.35, that 0.05 is the difference.
So
That's
they're
the
not
cost.
an employee of the WDC or the city, they're contract employee?
They are through a staffing agency. You have 2 options. Well, I mean, actually, they can get creative and have multiple options. But what happens is, whenever they come in, they cover the burden because that's how they make their money. Because nobody's, like we agree, nobody's gonna do it for free. That's how they make their money. And then you run out the clock. So if they don't work out, let's say you go 30, 60, 90 days in, like, hey, this ain't gonna work. We want somebody different. They won't charge you to replace them, but now you're not paying your unemployment benefits, you're not paying any of that. They transition them into something else. You say, hey, no, thank you, and they go away. If you say, no, you know what, we actually like them very much, we want to take them on, and we just want them to be ours at 30 days, 90 days, whatever, before the set amount of hours, then you have a reduced buyout price. So let's say the buyout price of that company is $2,500, $5,000, whatever it is. Once you get into 50% of those total hours, well, then it reduces that buyout. If you say, hey, you know what, we're just going to keep them on your burden, so we're not paying anything, we're just going to keep them on there and run out the clock and not pay the extra, and you just run out the clock at that 1.35 or 1.4, whatever it is that company charges. So if we're paying 1.25 or 1.3 anyway, the difference in cost is very narrow, which is why I'm saying, because the burden rate, the direct burden rate for us inside of a specific role like this is a little higher based on benefits.
Jan, there's someone from the audience requesting to speak. I don't know if you want to entertain that.
Are they able to?
At your discretion.
Yes, would someone like to address? And
What Cody is describing is very typical of an hourly employee, but not executive or salary employee. Very seldom will they come to work as a contract employee. Okay, you're searching for an executive position.
Yep.
And you're gonna pay a staffing agency what Jan had said, 25 or 30%. The $5,000 minimum is pretty cheap to get an executive position.
So it depends on the role, and you're absolutely correct if you're dealing with like an express or one of those random agencies. But when there are white-collar firms that just place white-collar individuals, is what they call them, and those bigger firms, they still operate in the same way based on the breakdown of the hourly rate, even though they're salaried. So even though they're salary, you're working 2,080 hours a year, so you have an hourly rate broken down. So that burden still falls out the same. So what you're saying is absolutely correct, but you have two different types of staffing agencies. You have the, I need a janitor or a temporary Christmas tree farm worker, or you have the executive white collar. And so I understand that difference, and I'm speaking specifically into the executive recruiting.
No, I know, but, and a lot of those people at that level are not gonna come to work as contractors. I'm gonna come to work because I want that job. I'm not gonna be working temporarily and you decide 30 days, 60 days that I didn't work out.
Yeah.
You're not, it's a different,
Well, and I can appreciate that, but again, I know also our client base, and we deal with multiple very large firms that have thousands and thousands of executive white-collar people for all kind of very large companies all over the world, and that is exactly what you're speaking to. So engineers, just you name it, all white-collar in office settings, and they absolutely do this, and I see it every day in a very large scale. But again, all I'm saying is I thought there might be some cheaper options.
Cody, I have a,
With Jim having attested to the idea that they have used this company before, and that's why he secures the idea of supporting them. Why did you decide on this company in the past? Have you gone to these avenues that Cody is talking about already and in solidifying this company, or did you just pick them out of the hat and thought this is a good idea? Have you gone to these avenues before that he wants this month's worth of looking into? Have you already done these avenues before you picked this company in the past? And that's what made you decide to go with it.
the city council hired them in the past, not the WEDC, so I cannot speak to that. I can only speak to, we have now for several months posted internally. McKinsey has posted on some of these other avenues, and like she said, we've gotten some applications that she has had to spend her valuable time on responding to, vetting, and all of those kind of things, versus us hiring someone whose expertise is in city government and city government positions in order to bring quality applicants to the table.
Obviously, we haven't solidified the whole situation. We've already gone through the avenues. We came to this conclusion. We might be done.
prior to hiring these firms, on the city ultimately, the city council had adopted several other avenues to try to find someone who was successful
I agree with using them due to their specialty, right? I was unaware of their cost, so I really don't need a month. In reality, I probably need about 20 minutes to make a phone call, but I don't think we can do that today, table it and all that. You need an answer, right? So it's either we wait a month for the next meeting, or we decide now. Am I correct or incorrect?
Correct.
Yes.
So Cody, I have a question, and I'm not real familiar. I've only used staffing agencies in my career limited number of times. When you say, let's say that they find 10 or 15 applicants, what does it look like from that point? Are they just sending those applications and resumes to us? Are they vetting them? Are they saying, here's the best 4? What does that look like with those larger types of companies?
Generally, for the client dictates that, but they narrow it way down. So what the company prefers to do is narrow it down to the best candidates and present the best to you. Now, you could say, hey, I want to see everything, but you give them the job duties, you give them the description, you give them the experience, you give them the parameters in which you want to work. You say, go find me 3, 5, 10, however many people that fit this description, that fit this disc profile, that fit this love language. This is what I want. Bring me 5, 10, 50, however many you want, and I want to see them, and I'll pick one.
And they do like the vetting, the criminal history, the background check, the reference checks and all.
And that's why they want.
How do they present that data to the city on those applicants?
They show it to you. They say, hey, we vetted this person, because whenever they come in and they sign off on the background check, they sign off, they're going to be able to disclose that information to whoever the end user is. And so they do the background check, drug screens, and they go however deep the client requires. So like for us, if we use somebody, we want a hair follicle that goes back 2 years, we want every county you've lived in the past 7 years, depending on where the person's going. So
then at that point, the city would re-interview anyone that was presented to them that they were interested in?
That's right. So if they say, hey, we've narrowed it down, we went through 500 people and we found these 5 that we think fit what you are asking for, you want to see all of them? Do you want to see the resumes, pick the best 2 or 3? How do you want to do it? And it's really up to you. You can say, nope, just send me the right one.
Right.
But when you're dealing with the larger white collar type, like she was talking about, the executive groups, when you're dealing with those guys, I mean, it's just they're different conversations. It's not like,
Yeah, that's a little bit of my concern too, is that, we do make a 20-minute phone call and we call these agencies and they say, yeah, absolutely, we can do that. And then we wait a month or we wait a couple of weeks for them to get applications in, and then we get them, but they're not specific to what we're asking for, and we end up having to start all over anyways. That's my only concern, because it is so specific, and I've never, anytime I've used a staffing agency in my career, it's been for some of the clerical type positions. It hasn't been for one of the larger ones. So that's my only concern, is that it could potentially delay it a little bit further. If we do it and they, hammer out some really great applicants, then that would be wonderful.
My contacts are to directors at other EDCs that I have dealt with in business before. So I'm not familiar with the staffing part.
Okay.
Mine would be to directors at other EDCs within the East Texas region.
Okay.
So, and that's if they answered it.
And I just want to be clear.
So
we've
maybe
had-
24 hours.
Yeah, and I just want to be clear, we've had a lot of conversation on this, and I am in no way, and have not, in any of this, objected to using this group.
Sure.
All I was trying to say is that there are other white-collar executive placement firms out there that specialize in that do it a little bit different. That's all I was saying. Spurred a lot of conversation. I stirred it up, didn't I?
Okay. Is there a motion on the floor?
Madam Chair, I move we approve the interlocal agreement with the East Texas Council of Governments for consulting services for director search as presented.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay,
I did get that on record, but I seconded.
you did.
No, I heard
you did.
Stephen.
You were saying?
And I appreciate you with your input and heart of always wanting to save us money. That's, I think, kind of what we
Yeah.
are all for there, but Mackenzie also has her hands full right now, and so if we can spend $5,000 to $10,000 and save some of her time so that she can focus on more productive matters for the city, I think that's a good investment in her time as well there. Okay, moving on to items 7.3, consider incentive application for grant for the Winnsboro Health Senior Services. Is there someone here to present that?
I don't see anybody.
Okay. I would, do we want to table that for another meeting due to no one here to present?
Motion to postpone.
Okay, can we have a motion to postpone?
I move that we postpone this item.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to postpone considering the incentive application for the Winnsboro Health Senior Services. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 7.4, consider incentive application, Petty Holdings LLC. Since there was no one here for the Winnsboro Health Senior Services, and those are related entities, I assume there's no one here to address that application as well.
That's an understanding.
Is there a motion to postpone or act on this incentive application?
I move that we postpone the incentive application for Petty Holdings LLC.
We have a motion.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion regarding that application?
Seeing as they're both under Petty Holdings, it's just for two different entities under the umbrella. Can we request that they pull their stuff together and have one, so we're not giving one entity two different things? I think we can break it out based on their stuff, but instead of seeing them twice.
Right. I think there's probably also additional information they would need to provide for one or both, and there's some question over the eligibility of their request as well, whether even these requests qualify for WEDC funding.
I think we can bring those together so that two agenda items.
They are two separate legal entities.
But they're both under Petty Holdings.
Petty Holding,
Yeah.
Company project name is Petty Holdings, we go back to the
They are interrelated, definitely. Okay. We have a motion and a second to table that incentive application. Are there any other questions? And that's, we can definitely visit with them, Cody, regarding your request. Okay, hearing no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Or any opposed? Not, that motion carries. The next item for consideration is 7.5, consider funding request from the Cultural Arts District for a matching grant to the Texas Commission on the Arts. I understand that a grant was submitted by the Cultural Arts District of Winnsboro to the Texas Commission on the Arts. I think Brenda Buck may have completed that application, and she is not here tonight to be able to address that with us, but has visited with you, Mackenzie,
Yes.
to present that information to us for our consideration.
Before I get into kind of the weeds of the grant and what it's for and the matching and all of that, the WCA wanted me to make sure that the board understood clearly that pursuit of this grant, if we move forward with this grant, that it does not allow them to break ground. It does not complete the entire phase of what the WCA needs in order to break ground on the the center that they're wanting to build. So just wanted to make sure that this is just a phase that gets us closer to the end goal of that arts center. Originally, this project was a part of the bonds. This part of the bond project did not pass. So when that did not pass, Vernon applied for the TCA grant. We received an award for $180,000. It's a 50-50 match. The reasons that...
Would you like to correct that figure?
Yeah.
She
It's
applied for $180,000. She was awarded 90?
The grant is for 180, and then we have to match 90. The award paperwork that we got says that. So it's for 180, but we have to put up 50% of that.
Okay.
We're asking the board for $90,000.
That part I agree with.
Okay, and then the whole amount of the project will be $180,000.
They're only getting us 90.
Yes, that's what I understood. She applied
Yes.
for 180. They received notice that they would receive 90 contingent upon a match of the $90,000.
My understanding
Correct.
was that this particular grant, you don't apply for an amount, that there's just this big pool and that you get whatever amount they give you.
Okay.
But I may not be communicating that correctly. Is that right? Okay, so I'm not sure what we actually applied for, but I
Okay.
know that our commitment is $90,000.
Okay.
What this will do is relocate the electrical portion that is on Market Street. The question was raised by the WCA why the bond amount was so much, but now we think that this small dollar amount will complete the same project. And so I posed that question to our Main Street coordinator, and what she said was that we've eliminated all of the pretty. So I'm assuming in the original bond project, there were some aesthetic things that were going to be done in addition to actually the infrastructure changes that were requested. We are also moving only the electrical, and there's not going to be a bore required with this new approach to the process, which will allow us to cut and then just relay the asphalt. So the bore is, I'm assuming, is a huge saving. I'm not real big in the construction world, so I'm not sure what boring costs, but the budget for the project, 350 feet of open cut at $200 a foot, was budgeted for $70,000. There is $21,750 for a pad mount transformer, 12 rework services at $2,500 each, replace sewer from Market to Franklin, 150 feet at $150 per foot for a total of $22,500. Demolition of existing overhead, $87.50. Engineering at $28,000 for a total project cost of $181. That is what was submitted with the grant in order to relocate the utilities for this project.
What was the bond for?
I believe that part was over like $250,000. Anybody know that what is it? Anybody? 360.
I mean, what exactly was it for?
My understanding was to relocate all of the utilities. I think that there is a piece on, what is it? There's a piece where the vacant lot sits. There's some sort of existing sewer that had to be addressed. Is that correct also? And then also it was going to do away with all the curbs and make it one flush surface across there.
I like doing what with curves.
Yeah.
Doing the curves.
And so I think that was another big expense that we would have incurred, which I think is part of the savings here because we're leaving the asphalt and not concreting up to the curbs. And so because the asphalt's there, whatever's needing to be done under the surface, we can just re-asphalt over it.
Do we know why the bond was denied?
Voters didn't vote for it. It went to election and it just wasn't voted.
Do we know
Or-
what voted on?
I couldn't answer why. I'm sorry?
It just wasn't approved by the voters.
Correct.
The
Yes, sir.
community.
Yes, sir.
So the community basically said no.
Yes, sir.
It would have encouraged the taxpayers, and that was the biggest, or the biggest happen.
By doing it this way, you don't have a tax increase and still.
So if we were to do this, what's gonna fund, do we you have any idea what's gonna fund the rest of the project? Like, we get all this moved and all that's great, but what's gonna,
Well, she just said they're cutting out the pretty, right?
That's correct. So the project cost right now is 181
just to get the power moved?
to relocate, yes, sir.
Doing all that will help the Market Street area promote more, or provide, stimulate economic projects. Because the way it is now, that you're limited on what you can do over there for events and all that sort of thing. You get even though it sounds like a lot of money, you'll get a big return on your investment now. Because people come to Winnsboro for all these events you put on, and they're bringing in outside dollars and spending them in town.
No, I understand. I guess what I'm asking is, what exactly are they planning to do? If they need that power, do they have any kind of plans to say, hey, if we can move this power, we're gonna do this, and it'll generate this revenue, so these taxes will come back?
So I asked specifically, I'm sorry, Jim, I asked specifically what the ROI was. I asked Brenda, I was like, that's probably going to be asked, what's the ROI on this? And so really it is just a phase to get the Arts Center one step closer to getting their facility built. And then once that facility built, then we'll be able to quantify in greater measure what the actual economic impact is going to be. Now, someone else from the Arts Center may be able to speak to those numbers. I don't know them.
So the possible return is really gonna come from the center that's built?
Absolutely.
later.
Yes, sir.
So where, and I guess my question is back to the Art Center, so if we're gonna spend the money to move it, or support spending the money to move it, what's gonna ensure that that next phase actually happens? And then if it does happen, what exactly are the plans in the future over the next 10, 15, 20 years to create enough revenue, to generate enough taxes to pay all that back and then some, to make it profitable over a 20-year span? Does that make sense? I know it's a hard question, but it's still, I mean, it's valid. If we're gonna be spending other people's money on something, I wanna know when we're getting the money back.
I mean, is there anyone with the Arts Center here that knows the details of?
I can speak to this part of that.
Okay.
It is a mess of nests on a pole right now with wires going all over.
Thank you, Jim.
I can't speak for numbers for everything. All I can do is give you my background and what I can see happening. And this is all based on the Art Center performance all happen. If you have that Art Center performance all happen, then you have the increased capacity for concerts of moving from 120 to over 250 people. That by itself is significant. I've been booking the concerts there for a long time. I know what I went across when I talked to agents, what I can afford, what I can't afford, what is limited because of capacity. I would think if you have your increased capacity, if you actually increase your sales by half of that. I was running some numbers the other day, and very conservative, and just not numbers that I want to hear because they're not that specific. But if you could see increased income from ticket sales, of course, the performers going to get a good part of that. You could see increased restaurant business of the evenings of the concert. You could see increased shopping, of course. You could see increased overnight stays. I think it's a very reasonable number to pick up maybe $40,000 a year, talking more than that. I think that's a very conservative number.
In taxes paid back?
Just in distance, I would think, in distance.
Because, I mean, for us, it's about generating tax revenue, right? So if we spend $90,000, how long would it take in tax see what I'm saying? And that's really my question is because,
But just to give you an indication of what can happen.
yes, sir.
with the sunshine.
I think the other side of that would just be sales tax. Other than just property tax, you would have some sales tax. If they're doing
Thank you.
twice the number of concerts, or the concerts or shows are twice as big because the facility holds more people, then one would assume that there's more people here spending more money in our town. But I know that Brenda has numbers and figures. She's really, really good at that. She is in contact with some other companies that can track zip codes from people's phones and purchases, and she knows all of those numbers, and all of those had to be submitted as part of this grant package because they wanted to know those similar things. Unfortunately, I don't have all of that data in front of me right now.
I'm just curious also because, you know, if we can increase capacity, that's great for the community. But where are we gonna park them? Where are they gonna sleep? Where are they gonna go? Because at some point, you kind of run out of, Winnsboro's got lots of curbs and it's only so big.
Yes.
We gotta get rid of the curbs.
My name is Cheryl, I live at 209 North Main Street. I don't know you two boys, but my name is Cheryl, I own the property in Winnsboro. So
Yes, ma'am. My wife gives you lots of money.
come by and see me anytime. Come by for gift cards. About that. But anyways, for years, we've been talking about Market Street. We've been talking about trying to have Winnsboro have a square. We don't have a square. We don't have a main, we have a main street, but it's full of, businesses. So we wanted a place that people could gather. That was big when we started all this. When we started a strategic plan 85 years ago, and then we worked on that, and then it came down to the bond election, which we lost. It was a horrible time to have a bond election. School taxes had just gone up, the economy's going to hell in a handbasket, and we just had an election. So it was not a good time. Unfortunately, it didn't pass. That was the one that, everything in that bond election was about growth. It was about future growth. It was about the farmer's market. It was about the streets. It was about preparing for people, influencing people. Market Street was part of that. In that, we had several strategic plans for Market Street to become that event place. The second phase, the first phase we already did, Brenda had received $190,000, $230, it was a huge grant for a small town. We got all the money. It was amazing. We got so much money. The city matched us. We were able to do phase one beautifully. And then the second part, things kind of began to fall apart. So now we just want to pull everything down underground. It doesn't have just to do with the art center. It has to do with my business. It has to do with the restaurants. They would get rid of the curbs, be able to bring that asphalt up. They can bring their alcohol out to the streets as long as it's within TABC rules. And so you've got beautiful patio. People will be on the street drinking, eating, having a good time, looking full for Winnsboro. That brings economic growth. But it's not about hard dollars as much, and I know everything boils down to, money, I get it. But it's about giving Winnsboro a square, giving a place that people can gather, and continuing to grow with just the one thing that aesthetically would make this town even more talked about than it is. And I talked to a lot of people coming through my spa, and this town is talked about. It's just quite the go-to place. So we don't want to lose that momentum, and part of that momentum is a $90,000 grant from the EDC that will just bury ugly utilities. That's all. But in the new septic system, you're not going to see a whole lot about it, but it's very much necessary. So again, it's not just about the art center. So if it didn't pass, if something happened, the art center didn't happen, we would still be able to continue to move forward, getting restaurants out on the street and getting events and getting a gathering place for people coming to Winnsboro.
I agree. And wouldn't that funding come from different scenarios though, if it didn't come from here, because it was for multiple businesses, and now it goes back to a different situation where you go to a different group to ask for the funds? So if it wasn't for the art center, and it wasn't in this scenario, and it was for other businesses and stuff like that, that'd be a different conversation on funding. I guess for me, where did the dollars come from that we are providing to these other businesses? They're not out of my pocket directly.
Comes from the
And
people.
that's right. And so,
So,
and I was asking that kind of rhetorically,
Oh, okay.
but
Well, good.
so if we're,
And I
yeah.
answered properly.
Yeah, but so, you know, it's our responsibility to be good stewards of that and really ask the hard questions and say, hey, listen, if we're gonna do this, because you've had some really good valid points, but if we're gonna allocate these funds for the way in which it was requested, and we don't see any potential for any money back, or we don't really see where that's gonna pay itself back, that's one conversation. But then if the conversation is, hey, this is really good for the community because it can help all these other businesses, well, then that funding comes from different places in different ways instead of just from the EDC. So it's about fund allocation based on request. And that's why I'm asking, hey, if the request is coming from the EDC and we were entrusted to put these dollars somewhere based on a specific request, then I would have to push back uncomfortably and say, hey, listen, that's great, but show me something tangible, because we went through one phase and then it just kind of stopped. All right, well, if we go through phase two, what's to say that it's going to keep going and we get to our end goal? What's going to push that on? So my thing is, are there other options where we can get other funding and not get all of it in its entirety from EDC? And that was my thing, and
Are there
we
other
just.
options? Let me just put it this way. I think originally it was going to be part of the city's funding. So that fell apart with the budget, zero balance, yet. In that, we will lose this grant. All right, we lose a grant, we have burned this one apart. She got the largest grant I think ever given to a small town 2 years ago. So if we walk away from this grant, and that's why it's so imperative that tonight is it. Tonight, because it goes back the 30th of September.
And we'd never get another.
And getting another one is like starting at the bottom. And so that was, would it be the end of the world if we didn't get it? No, but it will stall what we've been trying to do for 5 years. It's the one thing that I would, besides the farmer's market, that I would like to see economically to aesthetically grow Market Street, farmer's market. I don't care what it takes, because those things are the things that aesthetically drive people to Winnsboro. I'm sure there's ROI. I have no idea what it is. But is there other avenues? Probably. Are we under a time crunch? Yeah, we have 2 days. So.
Isn't that similar to pass this bill before you read it?
No.
I mean, and I say that, and I'm being legitimate. If we don't know the ROI, and we're asking the community, hey, can we have this money? And we're saying, okay, well, yeah, but for what? We're saying part of a project that we don't know for sure if we're gonna get to finish, but we need to do it right now because of this. That's tough if we don't have any data to say, hey, here's kind of a possibility. I mean, we got lots of hopes, and that's good, but if we don't have anything, and I feel like we should have something to say, hey, here's how this money's coming back.
Do you think that there's ROI when we improve the streets?
Is there ROI when we improve the streets?
Using tax dollars to improve the streets?
I didn't vote on that.
What did you vote for? We're missing you. We needed you to vote for the farmer's market.
Yeah, I didn't vote on that.
No, but everybody else did. And so the streets are an issue. There's no ROI in terms of trying to figure out. I didn't vote for it either. I thought our streets were fine. But they're not. They're not great. But is there any return on investment in the street? No. It's about making Winnsboro. And I know it's all about money. I get it. I own a business. If you ain't got the money, you can't be there. I get that. But this is a little more than, go ahead.
We have, in the past, they brought forth the increase that's happened in tax dollars. And what makes Winnsboro work economically, or a big part of it, is being a destination place. And like Jim had said, we've had all these concerts, and the vast majority of them sell out totally. And if we had an available space, we'd get more people. People are coming from Dallas to all over the northeast Texas area. They've come for Oklahoma and Arkansas for some of these concerts and stuff, and bringing in outside tax dollars, sales tax dollars. And so if you can accommodate more of them, you get even more of that, which helps fund city goods and services for the people. And that's, that was the whole point of doing that. And we
Thank you.
Thank you.
I know one of the questions that you had asked, I guess as far as what's going on there on Market Street, the Arts Center has started a capital campaign, and everything has pretty much stalled from there until the city is able to come up with the funds to relocate this electrical from going across the alley and the property that they own, and getting that buried so that they can then move forward with some of their plans. This is just part of it. I know.
Is that all the overhead they're gonna get rid of?
That is my understanding. I have, if you go, there's like a pole, and Brenda called it like a bird's nest. It's like just all these wires are coming out of this one central spot right there on Market Street. And she said it kind of limits the things that they can do vertically on Market Street in bringing in events and other things there, because of the danger of the overhead lines and utilities that are there. And that by, the first step, burying those, it gives more usable space to Market Street for future events. It also allows the Art Center to look at moving forward with their next phase of their projects. I know in addition, though, to the electrical, the sewer also has to be relocated from where it is, or at least sleeved, is my understanding, so that they're able to build on top of where those things are located. I do not know, since I'm not on city council, what is in the city's budget to be able to help with some of those expenses and other things there. This grant is $90,000 that the city would be receiving, contingent upon a match to be able to invest in the relocation of the electricity and that portion of the utilities. And my understanding, I think Cheryl alluded to it, is once you have been awarded a grant, we were looked at and considered, this is kind of like the next step up from the last grant that we were awarded. And once you apply and you're given the grant and you don't have plans in place and are able to use those funds, you're basically starting over again to establish your credibility with the Texas Commission for the Arts, who are the grantors for this Cultural Arts District grant there. And so it could limit our receipt of other grants coming in for some large grants, I understand, that are being applied for and consider for upgrading Market Street, the Cultural Arts District, the Arts Center, and others that are there.
My understanding is that that's for a time period of 2 years.
I know we don't have the authority to just approve writing a $90,000 check. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mackenzie. We have the authority to recommend to City Council that we use a portion of either our budgeted funds or our reserve account funds to invest in such a project. So if I guess they're needing definitive, yes, these funds are available, it can't even get on the council's agenda for a special meeting because of the 72-hour notice and other things that are required in order to
have the council meet to act upon any recommendation we present to them.
With the EDC's approval or action that they take tonight, assuming that you all did vote in favor of the match, that would give us what we needed to go to TCA and say, yes, we want it. So that's what we need. Everything else could happen after that. It's not gonna happen that quickly. We just need to be able to confirm acceptance of the award before the end of this month. I believe that it's going to require a budget amendment if we want it done out of this current year, which we can do after the fact, but I would definitely want it.
Current year meaning the 2022-2023 budget year?
21, 22. It's up to you guys. So the one that ends September 30th, if you guys wanted to use fund balance from that, we would have to amend that budget. If you want to pay for it out of the one that begins October 1st, then we have that special projects funds that's already in there. It would take a majority of what you all proposed in that budget line item, but it's there and would not require a budget amendment. So it's kind of up to you guys how you choose to pay for it when we get to that point.
So you ladies just need whether or not it was approved.
Whether or not EDC is authorizing the $90,000 for the match.
Even if there's some stipulations to it?
It's a yes or no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, because not necessarily, because we could say, because again, I think maybe what I was saying was misinterpreted. I'm just saying, whether it's a good idea or not, that's not the conversation. We all agree it's a great idea. What I'm saying is, where should the appropriate funding come from? So if we were to say, yes, we support it and we would do it, but we would like, because you need a yes, but we would like for you to try to get some appropriational funding in other areas, then we met the intent, you get the rest of it, but it also gives you time and the opportunity to say, hey, listen, this isn't a full EDC project. There are some other areas that we could possibly pull some funding from also that was more appropriate in allocation of funds based on intent. See what I'm saying? So it's not about whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent. It's a great idea. It needs to be done, but that would, and then if they said, hey, we can't get any funding anywhere else, we tried, then at least we still possibly, I'm just saying, if we said yes, then you still have it, but it requires going out and trying to get some of the other stuff that historically didn't pass because of whatever reason, economics, whatever. So at the end of the day, you still have it, but it's saying, hey, try to get some allocation somewhere else. Also,
The funds are available in the EDC budget, aren't they? It's just you have to reallocate where it comes from.
The funds are available in the 22-23 budget. We created a special line item that says special projects. If you want it paid from the current fiscal year's budget that ends on September 30th, that would require a budget amendment to use fund balance.
Okay.
But yes, the bottom line answer is yes, the fund balance money is there.
It's available.
Yes, sir.
Is there someone from the Cultural Arts District Board that can answer, I mean, are there any private funds or private matching funds that are available to cover a portion of the match that is being required?
I can't speak to that. I know that there's grants out there. That's where Brenda and whoever else is members of the art centers have been able to get money so far. I don't know about private funding, but that's the problem. The thing is, since we've gotten a grant, we've got several grants this year. I mean, we've tried for years to get grants, and they sprinkle in every now and again, but this year, it's just like it's blooming because we have set precedents that we are people of our word, we will do what we will do. So would that open that option? I would say possibly, but I don't know that answer, Jan. I know there's funding for the arts out there.
Well, not even just for the arts. You know, you said, and you were absolutely correct, you said that it would help multiple businesses. There's a lot of good that could come from it, not just for the Arts Center, but other companies would also like to have the same thing. Well, we have 5 different companies ask for some grants or funding to help support a singular project, and now the funds are spread out over different businesses, and it's not just about the Art Center. I think even the people that voted against it in the bond, even if it weren't for sheer economics, let's say there's people that just don't like it. In that case, who doesn't like the spa? Who doesn't like, pick another entity? Well, now you've got different groups asking for funding to support one singular project, and the allocation of funds is better received and possibly better spent, instead of just all of it taking one big hit out of just the EDC. Because we all agree it needs to be done. We agree with it, just like we all agree there's too many curves.
I mean, I don't think, what you had said something about other grant opportunities available. I don't think you can match, I wouldn't think matching funds would come from a grant. And so to me, it would be individuals, other civic organizations in town, donors versus grants that make that match. And I didn't know if there were any funds available, or if anyone had said, hey, if y'all get a grant, we have X number of dollars available for a match.
So are we really talking about upgrading the city? We're taking old, antiquated, overhead watering and putting it underground. The city just, I'm a citizen and I pay taxes and all those things, but it's the city's responsibility to upgrade, which is really what they're asking is, city, do your part so we can continue to grow our businesses and the art center and everything else, but the city is behind. The city is behind the times, and the voters, you who live in the city limits, decided they didn't want to pay for that. But it needs to be done. For the city to grow, the city needs to do their part and put the utilities where they're.
I don't think there's anybody that disagrees with that.
So I don't think you're gonna get private people to step up and say, we're gonna help the city
The private
do what
people
they
aren't
need
willing,
to do.
No,
wouldn't be willing.
The city put it to a bond election.
I mean, yeah, there's other if it's if we're saying, and what you just said is the city's behind, the city needs to do it. What I'm saying is you guys need an approval tonight to say, yes, the EDC would fund it. That's what but if the EDC were to say, yes, but we expect for you to go try to find the appropriate funding before it's written, if you tried it again, because you don't have to have it tomorrow. So if you just need it.
But if they don't get it, is the EDC gonna come forward with it?
That's what I'm saying. So if we were to vote yes, then if you didn't get it, then it's still there, but it's just saying, hey, let's go try to get the funding from, like you just said, the city should do it. So we're saying, hey, listen, we all agree in the community that this thing needs to be done possibly, but let's see if we can get some other people to pay for it first. If we can't, then here we go.
How long would that take?
Well, I mean,
To
we're not,
get
we're
other
not,
funding.
but that's the thing, we're not trying to relocate it tomorrow. They just need an answer for the bond, or the
Grant.
grant.
But if we approve that and approve it to look for other funding, then that's gonna drag it out a long time trying to find the other funding.
Yeah, but we're not trying to relocate it next week, next month. I mean, we don't even have the stuff for the next phase. So,
It's gonna take a while to get that done, and you wanna have it done in time for the events and.
but isn't that a whole secondary conversation? I mean,
Well, this is a city problem. At the end of the day, if it looks like a rat's nest.
and that's what we're saying, hey, let's
If they gotta go
possi-
get a loan to do it, I wouldn't do it.
That's why we're saying, hey, let's possibly approve the help, but in the next 90 days, can you try to get some support? All I'm saying is, we agree that it's the right, we're not disagreeing. I think everybody in this room is agreeing with the same thing. The only thing I'm saying is, where should the funding come from? And if you can't get it in a set parameter of time, then you have something to fall back on that also gives the other part of the grant.
In addition to the electrical, there's also the sewer that the city is going to have to find the funds to relocate as well. Am I correct there?
It's all included.
I'm not saying a word.
2,000 for the sewer.
Okay.
So the city would be
Okay, so-
responsible for that.
Can you go over those numbers again, maybe Mackenzie, a little slower, and
My jaws are.
that way we know exactly?
whose property does all those wires sit on? The art centers?
Okay, it's,
All the wires, does it sit on the art center's property?
I think the wire sits on the opposite side
Yeah.
of the art center, is that correct? The wires sit on the opposite side, and I'm assuming they've been there since development, and the city doesn't actually do electricity, so that is not a utility that the city owns. So we weren't responsible for putting that in. There's, I'm assuming, some sort of easement agreement in there, but they do sit on the opposite side.
So the art center's the only one that stepped up to try to clean it up, ultimately is what it boils down to?
Yes.
They have the largest vested interest in seeing that this project moves forward so that they can continue with their significant investment in Market Street, downtown, and Winnsboro.
Do you want those numbers?
Yes, please.
350 feet of open cut at $200 a foot for a total of $70,000.
And that's to bury, that's
That's what it sounds like to me.
Opening up.
For the pad mounted transformer, is $21,750. $12 rework services at $2,500 each for a total of $30,000. Replace sewer from Market to Franklin, 150 feet at $150 per foot for a total of $22,500. Demolition of existing overhead, $8,750. Engineering cost, $28,000. Grand total, $181,000.
So that sounds like we are getting the electrical and the sewer.
I think the part that it doesn't cover is the sleeve that the art center needs.
Is there a cost estimate on what that portion would cost?
No, because that was not a submission with this particular grant. I'm assuming the sleeve was estimated when we put the project out for the bonds, but I don't have that number in front of me.
So if this isn't replacing the sewer where the art center is going to be built, what is it replacing?
My understanding is that this is what, removing or relocating this portion of the sewer, my understanding is what will eventually allow the street to come up to one level, is my understanding.
Okay.
So that when all of that's, I guess, brought up to all concrete, then the infrastructure would not be under a concrete area, would be relocated.
Are there any other questions that the board has? It's obvious that the Texas Commission on the Arts finds this to be a very worthwhile project, that they are willing to invest in our town. And they don't live here and call this home, so they don't have the I guess incentive that we do to see Market Street improved and these things take place. I know there are other TCA grants that are possible for the future to continue other phases and some fairly significant ones as well through different means. I don't know if those hinge on this project or not.
They all hinge on each other. That's what we've seen in the years we've been doing this. Those grants all hinge on each other.
Holly just asked me a question. I don't know the answer, but I wanted to ask you guys, do you guys know how long we have to pay the 90,000? What is the, I feel like it's a year. I felt like this was a year, but I'm not entirely sure.
Brenda would be handy to ask here.
Unfortunately, she had a long scheduled vacation and time away and didn't realize, I mean, it's kind of like, they don't tell you when they're going to give you, here's the award, and you have
30 days, yeah.
this much time to come up with a game plan. It was kind of a unfortunate timing here. But also fortunate that we were meeting tonight and that we're able to go forward here. I know from a personal standpoint, I think it's good when we invest in projects that don't just help one entity, but that improve an area of the town so that multiple private businesses, nonprofits, other entities benefit from it, and we get a larger return that may not can be monetized, but just a larger return for our investment by helping a very broad-based area. And this type of a project falls under, to me, those types of things. It's not just this problem that it's solving or this entity that it's supporting, but it is supporting the general economy of Winnsboro and progress of Winnsboro. Is there anyone else from the audience that would like to add anything to that could shed some light on?
I would just say the Art Center, the private funding plans to invest $2.5 million to build the Art Center. That's a pretty big private investment once the utilities are started, so.
Would definitely be a draw.
The Art Center would do that, then the Art Center alone would be benefiting all the businesses instead of the city doing the whole that then benefits all of the people on the east side of Warnesville, all the businesses. I've lived in town, and I happen to know even the sewer situation, they have the cisterns and stuff. I think a lot of the sewer gas will come back up. So to me, just even having that sewer line, it's going to keep bringing really for all of that downtown area. So like new lines. I think that's what the Art Center hasn't taken this on
You're hired.
themselves, because they would be good for all downtown.
Right. August 30th, 2023.
Is that the same time when that grant for the other 90 comes in as well? Like at the 181, we give 90, they give 90. Is that where we're at?
Yes.
So if we have till August 2023?
For the funds to be spent.
For the
and-
project to be complete. Yeah. That's the completion date.
When do y'all get the grant money from it?
Not until we accept officially.
Well, let's hypothetically assume we say yes, right? So,
Usually it's pretty quick.
Yes.
And then we
it was
have
last
to show everything that we've done.
okay.
What does pretty quick mean? A week, a month, a quarter,
I
a
got
year?
bubbles. coming. As soon as I get back and put the bank info and put in the bank info. Just wait for
So,
I'm trying to take a vacation.
and I would assume that our match would need to be pretty immediate as well. That way the funds are sitting there and earmarked for the project.
I'm less familiar, maybe you can ask Brenda about this. Typically, the way they work when it's match is you pay 100%, you file your paperwork, just like when people request money from you guys. We pay 100% of whatever engineering, and then we submit that to TCA for a reimbursement, and they would reimburse 50%. So it's kind of as you go along, it's a reimbursement process. So they don't look to see if you have $90,000 sitting in your account ready to go. They want a commitment that you're going to do it, and then you have a year to spend it, and it's a reimbursement process.
Okay. I thought she just said, though, that the funds would be made available.
There's a lot of things that have to happen before you have to have pre-con meetings, you have to have bids, proposals, different things like that have to happen. And so once those contracts are negotiated, at that point, we're eligible then to put out the RFPs, the RFQs to get the estimates in to start the project. Then it has to come before council. Council has to approve the bids, award the contracts, score them. So that whole process has to take place. So that'll take a little bit of time. But once we do that and we engage all of the vendors and the contractors and we approve the RFPs, then it's just a matter of getting the work done.
Did the city approve our budget, which included that $93,000 for future
Yes, ma'am.
projects and prospects?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so there is money sitting in the budget, and this would be our one large project that we support for the city for the year. Previously, we've done $100,000 for the farmers market as the seed money to establish the concrete, the uprights, the awnings and all there. And then I believe we also, a few years ago, invested in the water main from
On Post Oak.
the tower through the Post Oak area and to the school district in order to put in the large water pipe that would supply water to our new high school there. And so we have typically taken part of our budget to invest in infrastructure that supports projects that are help with the city.
Wish them would open a butcher shop, a slaughterhouse, that'd be great.
Got one named Hamburger.
Any other questions, discussions? Or a motion which would need to be our support to recommend to council that WEDC invests $90,000 in match for the Cultural Art District's Texas Commission on the Arts grant.
Say that again.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the funding request from the Cultural Arts District for a matching grant to Texas Commission on the Arts as presented.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Did we put the part in there about trying to find additional funding?
No.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. I think we've answered the question. No, we didn't. It was made just exactly
The way he said
as it was presented. So
Yep.
all those in favor of approving the motion as presented?
Aye.
Aye.
And are there any opposed? Okay. Sounds like motion carried. Okay. Seeing there are no further items on the agenda, I will call this meeting adjourned at 7:27 PM. 7:27.
Got to read that part.
Slap my pen.